Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by other prospect experts here on the site. We got Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer. Peter, how's it going? Welcome back. We had a bunch of guests on last episode to do the Utah Hockey Club, but we missed you. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, sorry about last week, but it was a Jays game. Couldn't pass up an opportunity to see them get double digits for the first time in God knows how long. So I'm going to savor that moment. By the way, if you ever go to a Jays game, get the Oreo churros. They are absolutely phenomenal and well worth the price. You get 3 massive churros, and I had a sugar coma right after. So really fun, really great. So that's my recommendation right there.
It definitely sounds good. Yeah, that's a good one. Dayton, how's it going?
Oh, it's good. Yeah. I don't know. It's the summer. Not a lot of hockey going on. Blades training camp is starting up pretty soon, so I'm excited for that. Beyond that, yeah, it's just waiting for the hockey season.
Oh yeah, Dayton, you're credentialed with the Blades this season, so we're gonna get a bit more inside stuff on the show. So we have to dedicate something every week to talking about the Blades.
Sure, I'll come up with something.
There we go. Have Prospect Corner, Blades Corner, kind of in the corner. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Well, they're always in the corner.
In the corner. There you go. All right. Well, we're this episode we're going to talk about trades, and there's been a ton of them in the last month or so. All of a sudden, a few GMs woke up and started doing some trades involving prospects and young players. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're just going to touch on a few rookies to keep an eye on this season too, because there's quite a few exciting ones apart even from the main guys. So that's our agenda for today. So let's get going and start talking about the trades, and we'll start with the most recent, and that was Yaroslav Askarov going to the Sharks from Magnus Corona and David Edstrom. And Edstrom was already, we talked about him being traded in the Tomas Hertl deal. So he's on the move again, and he's now off to Nashville. So I'll start with you, Peter. What do you think about this trade? I mean, Askarov, it kind of came out of, I don't know if a left field, that he was unhappy. He wanted to go. I mean, it kind of makes sense. UC Saros was, re-signed, and now he's the main guy for a long time. So now Askarov kind of has a roadblock in front of him, and I'm sure he wants to be a starter. So now he has a much better chance in San Jose. And then, Corona kind of goes the other way. I don't know how much of an opportunity he'll get in Nashville either, probably more depth, but Edstrom's the big guy here. What do you think about the trade overall and how they kind of fit in where they're going?
Well, I mean, you look at their past drafts of what they try to do. I mean, you got your 1-2 punch in up the middle with Celebrini and Smith. You have your wing depth in William Eklund, Quentin Musty, Igor Chernishev. You got a lot of names on the right side as well that's starting to come up. You have your defense core set by drafting, Sam Dickinson, Leo Valenius, and you were just missing that goaltender.
Yeah.
And now you got that goaltender. You got the perfect balance of a core unit of the team going forward that could be very competitive in the next 4 to 5 seasons, depending if how long prospects take, but to make the next level. But I thought it was a fantastic deal. I thought if there was one team that had the assets to try and make the deal and actually needed a star goaltender, it would be the San Jose Sharks. I mean, you look at the body of work that Askarov has done at, kind of like a pro level. I think that even when he was at the KHL and VHL level, kind of hit or miss at certain points in Russia. But when he came over to North America, that's when he started to, get a little bit more comfortable. He started to pop off. He had a save percentage over 910 when he was with the Milwaukee Admirals in the AHL. 2.69 in 2022, 23 goals against average, 2.39 last season. And 30 wins, 13 losses. one overtime loss, or what's being considered a tie there. But 30-13 is his record, win-loss. Look, numbers probably wasn't that great in the playoffs, but you see what he can do. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. The reflexes, the quick movement, the ability to make highlight reel saves, even when, he looks in like a desperation mode, he goes into that style and he just makes a stop. I think that he is going to be that steady backstop for them in the future. He wasn't going to get that opportunity in Nashville. I think we all realized that when Saros signed that extension. We all thought that he would be the goaltender to take over both Pecorino and Saros when that time comes. But if you sign a goaltender 8 more years and I'm coming up in the system and I think I'm ready, I want another opportunity. I mean, maybe there really is no other way to go around it. He's ready for the NHL. He's basically on the verge to getting to that point, and now he's going to get that opportunity in San Jose. So I think it was a great move for San Jose. They got everything else intact, but now you got that steady goaltender and the one that you could be relied on in the future to take you far into the playoffs, be relied on in any key situation. So, I mean, fantastic move all around for San Jose right there.
They were the biggest team that kind of made the most sense for Askarov to go. I mean, there were obviously other teams that have probably given him a call because he is the top goaltending prospect in the league right now, and he's going to stay at number 1 when I update my prospect rankings for the goaltenders. Just a spoiler. He is still going to be the number 1. No one's usurped him. I think he's going to be. I mean, I know Barry Trotz didn't seem to like how it kind of was dealt with. He said that he didn't want the talks to be public. He didn't want all that, but we got something for him, and I mean Edstrom, and Edstrom's one of the better prospects that the Sharks had, and they got him in that Hurdle deal. And you're kind of looking at it now, the moves that they made. Now the Hurdle trade is pretty much for Askarov because, and now everyone's kind of, well, maybe that's a bit more even. They weren't really sure if that was a big deal, but now it seems to be. I think it was a good trade too. I think Askarov's going to be maybe not the starter this season because they do have a couple goaltenders, Blackwood and who's their other guy? Vanacek. So, I mean, I don't know how he's going to get much of a chance there either this season, but it's a better chance than what he had in Nashville. All right, Dayton, let's move to the Oilers now and talk about their biggest trade to start. I mean, we're going to go through a few of them here, but Matt Savoie going from the Sabres to the Oilers for McLeod and Tullio. This one for me came out of left field. I didn't think Savoie was a guy that was on the block, that they were looking to trade. What do you think about this one? I mean, now he pretty much bumps to the top of the Oilers prospect pool because they weren't as strong in the first place. How do you see his path in Edmonton and just the trade overall?
Yeah, definitely the top prospect in Edmonton. I don't think that is a wild overstatement. He was always a very highly rated guy in the Sabres organization, and seeing him moved was quite surprising. So not quite sure what the thought was behind that. Glad that the Oilers can take advantage of it though, because they're getting a fantastic young center. He is a little undersized, as most people will mention. He's only 5'10", but he had a killer season in the WHL last season. He put up well over a point per game. Starting with the Wenatchee Wild, he had 11 goals in 11 games with 24 points. And then he was traded to the Moose Jaw Warriors for their Memorial Cup run. 47 points in 23 games. He was practically unstoppable. Add another 24 points in 19 playoff games. So he is a high-end offensive guy. The one, I guess, mark against him right now is just that World Juniors, where Canada really didn't perform, and most people were expecting that Savoie would be kind of the the offensive driver for that team. A single assist in 4 games, they got eliminated very quickly from any sort of medal contention. Not a great time. And I wonder maybe if that's what was in Buffalo's back of mind. I don't think I don't think they're going to look back on that trade as a win. I think they got a solid guy in Ryan McLeod. He will play NHL games, and they do need NHL players. You can only rebuild for so long, and I don't know if a dozen years is probably plenty. Just throw a little shot in there. Why not?
Why not? They've taken those punches many seasons.
Yeah. No, I think Ryan McLeod is great. Tyler Tullio is a guy who might play games. And I think that's fine for them. McLeod will make their bottom six, I think, a lot more solid for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, Savoie's one of those guys that when you look at the Sabres prospect pool, we've mentioned it many times. They got so many high-end guys, and maybe Savoie maybe just had too many of the similar player too, and that when Zach Benson kind of broke out, I think he may have just jumped ahead of him, and now they have so many forwards. I mean, it's just they got to trade some of them and sometime, but. I mean, they got McLeod, who's obviously an NHL player. He's a guy that's established himself in the league already, and he'll probably be their third line center, and adds a lot of speed to their lineup. And Savoie may or may not have made the lineup. Who knows? I mean, they just got so many young players that are going to be vying for those spots, whatever spots they do have. So it's going to be interesting to see even Savoie how he does this season. Does he make the Oilers? I don't know. Peter, what do you think about Savoie? Does he have a path to the NHL this season, or is that going to be something he's going to have to play in lower leagues for the Oilers? I mean, I don't know. Oilers, again, they don't have a lot of spots either. Although those trades kind of made some moves. Maroon, I don't know.
I'm still baffled that was the return or the price for a top tier prospect. I mean, I think we could all attest that even social media blew up Buffalo, what are you doing kind of thing, right? You didn't even get a first. You didn't even get a second. Like, that to me was just bad asset management. But if you're the Oilers, you're taking that trade any day of the week. Yeah, I think there definitely is a path for him this season. Obviously, I think when you look at the center depth, if you're trying to go that balanced approach with McDavid and Draisaitl, you don't probably maybe you want to put him into that third line spot, see what he could do, bottom six role. But then if he starts to elevate it, who's to say that maybe you can't put him on the wing and maybe play with, two elite type of players in McDavid and Draisaitl? I mean, I don't know if he'll fare better on either the left or right side. He has a right shot. Maybe you can put him better on the right, more on the right side. But it'll be interesting to see how that could play out if he does fit on as a wing, if there's a little bit of a crowd up the middle of the ice, because he definitely has the speed, the shot, the ability to, feed off of better players or play well with, high-end talent. And we've seen what he could do in the WHL. Now let's try and see what he could do at the next level or at the NHL level. If anything, maybe get some experience in the AHL first and then get called up. I think that would probably be a little bit more realistic. But who's to say that he can't impress at camp? And if he plays well with either one of those two superstars that the Oilers have, I mean, why not put him on the wing? Why not try him out and see what he could do there?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have a chance to get a spot. It's just the other moves that they made kind of filled those in too, and that could pay some competition for him. But I think he is going to be a guy that's going to play a big part on the Oilers and could play in that top six at one point. And that's a big boost for a team that didn't have a good prospect pool. Now, I mean, they strengthened it. He's probably their best. I mean, their best, and probably their next one is not that much. It's quite a bit away from him, I think. He is their only blue chip prospect, I think, at this point. I mean, there are some that they drafted this season that could maybe fall into that. Sam O'Reilly's a pretty good guy. I don't know if you call him blue chip, but he would be one of their high end guys too. So, but it's not very deep on that way there. All right, let's talk about some of the other ones that happen. These aren't all prospects per se, that they're all young players. So Dylan Holloway, and Holloway was a guy that I think they were hoping that he was going to be a big part of this team, but of course got offer sheeted by the St. Louis Blues, and then Broberg too gets offer sheet, first double offer sheet that's happened in NHL history, which was crazy to me. And then they're both now Blues, so they made a bunch of trades to kind of fulfill those spots. I guess they thought, well, we're going to probably not match them because they kind of replaced them with two guys with these trades. So they acquired Vasily Podkolzin from the Vancouver Canucks and then Ty Emberson from the Sharks by trading Cody Ceci to get some cap space. That's why everyone thought maybe they're going to match because they're going to free up cap space. But that didn't happen. So I'll start with you, Dayton, and just maybe encompassing all these trades together. You can kind of focus on one or some if you want. What do you think about all this? I mean, Podkolzin going from the Canucks to the Oilers, I don't like it because I was hoping that Podkolzin would take a big step this season, but there's just no room for him. I'm probably going to get claimed off waivers, so they got something for him. I mean, this whole thing kind of played out in the last 2 weeks. All this movement. What do you think about it all?
Yeah, definitely a flurry of movement, and I don't know if it all made sense for the Oilers.
Yeah.
If that's not too bold to say. Not putting up or not matching the offer sheets that were sent out by the Blues. At least not matching one of them after trading Ceci was a strange choice. I thought definitely Broberg. That seemed like a very affordable deal for somebody who could play decent minutes. Holloway also was a first round pick, looked maybe even more promising than Broberg. Broberg has had some struggles, and they just let them both walk, and they got 2 seconds and a third or 2/3 and a second. Not a huge haul for what they could have had in those players. I think Podkolzin fills a little bit of what Holloway kind of leaves in a space. Has a better shot of making the Oilers this season than playing impactful role in Vancouver, unfortunately, because I think he is a very good player, and the Canucks are they're gonna miss him, I think. Emberson is fine. It's just a cheaper Ceci.
Yeah,
that's about all the thoughts I have. It's I don't know what the Oilers were doing. I don't think it hurts their team, but I don't think it also makes them better.
Yeah, I think the Holloway Podkolzin kind of swap, if you want to call it that. I think Podkolzin's got some potential, and Holloway, same thing. I mean, they both haven't really established themselves in the NHL yet. Podkolzin's I don't think has been given enough of a chance in Vancouver. I mean, I made that comment. Everyone's like, he's been given too many chances. I'm like, not really. His rookie season, he had a chance. And then since then, they haven't really given him much. So I don't know. Whatever, that's in the past now. He's an Oiler, and we'll see what he does there. Peter, what do you think about all these moves? I mean, there's, again, not real any prospects involved. They're all just pretty young, players, but we like talking about young players on Prospect Corner too. So they were prospects at one point.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to imagine that Broberg has already played 81 games, but this season, he only played 49 in the AHL, and that's where the whole entire, controversy came up of him wanting out or wanting a fresh start or a better opportunity. And I do agree with Dayton that, kind of perplexing at first, but I thought that they would have had a better chance of signing Dylan Holloway better than Philip Broberg because of the fact that Broberg kind of wanted out already. It was already mentioned quite a bit, and I thought that his contract was a little bit more than what they were willing to pay for, and I thought Holloway would have been a little bit more cheaper on their end. But yeah, not signing both definitely is very head scratching, and even considering the fact that there was the injury concerns about Evander Kane, and you could use a speedy power forward, kind of like Dylan Holloway at this point, right? I know they also went out and got Podkolzin, but you could have probably had both Holloway and Podkolzin if the math and the money worked out. Probably not because they're so strapped for cash. Yeah, Emerson is a much cheaper CC, and I think maybe the direction they wanted to go for a more shutdown type player. But you know what? Broberg has shown that he can be a little bit impactful offensively, and he hasn't gotten that chance with the Oilers. He definitely has a chance with the Blues right now, and same with Dylan Holloway. A little bit more for both players to move up into the lineup and make their mark where they weren't getting that opportunity in Edmonton. So yeah, head scratching all around. Thought Holloway could have been the option, or I thought would have been the safer option to match and let Broberg walk. But yeah, very confusing situation all around because everything kind of had that trickle down effect, and it was like one move led to another, and it was all because of the offer sheet. But
Yeah.
it was fun. It was chaotic for all of us that aren't Oilers fans. But yeah, definitely exciting to see, but a little bit perplexing.
We need more offer sheets.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
This is fun. Let's make hockey fun. More offer sheets, please.
It definitely makes everyone having to make moves to either match them or the Oilers, I guess, to make more flexibility and still replace what they lost. I don't know if they really replaced. I mean, I think Holloway, Podkolzin is pretty much a wash. I think they're pretty much a similar situations. Emberson, Broberg, I don't know. Emberson's going to be a really good, I think, defensive defenseman in the NHL. Broberg, I think, has more upside, but at $4 million right now, that's just too much money. I feel like he's not going to live up to that right now. Obviously, the Blues think so. And we'll see. It's going to be interesting to follow how all these guys kind of go this season, how they kind of fit in where they're going. All right, another thing. I mean, it seems like a theme. Guys requesting trades don't want to play where they are. Rutger McGroarty getting traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Brayden Yager. Yager, obviously, he's not in that category that he wanted out, but he's the return for McGroarty who didn't want to play for the Jets. So this is, again, a saga that's gone on for a few weeks, and it finally got done, 1-for-1. Peter, what do you think about this? And we've talked a lot about Brayden Yager. We've talked a lot about Rutger McGroarty throughout their draft seasons and beyond. What do you think about this swap? Obviously, the Jets had to do something because McGroarty was never going to play for them.
Yeah, my initial thought was, the Penguins are getting Rutger McGroarty. Perfect. Their prospect pool is very, very weak. They don't have a lot in the system. Probably Brayden Yager was their top prospect. But then we found out that Brayden Yager was a player going back. So it's, again, 1-for-1, top prospect for top prospect. Totally get that. I understood that you had to pay a price. I thought it probably would have been maybe a second and maybe someone like Owen Pickering. Thought they could have really afforded to lose him more than Brayden Yager because once Crosby and Malkin gone, you need someone up the middle. And Brayden Yager could have been not necessarily live up to that potential because nobody can. But he definitely could have been a do-it-all kind of centerman for the Pittsburgh Penguins in the future, whether it's first or second line. I guess the fact that McGroarty wants to make that jump right now makes them competitive for the time being, but is Rutger McGroarty going to be the answer to what could be the last dance or another last dance situation for the Pittsburgh Penguins? Because I don't see them all. Again, McGroarty could have a fantastic rookie season, but I don't think it's going to push the Penguins further into that crowded and very competitive Metropolitan because you're already looking at the New York Rangers leading the way. The New Jersey Devils added a goaltender and made some really strong moves. The Carolina Hurricanes, those are probably the top 3 teams right now. Washington made some better moves than them overall. What's going to happen with the Penguins? I think that it's a good move in the short term for the Penguins, with McGroarty making the roster, being a good fit, probably just bypassing the AHL because he's got that size, he's got the power, he could probably hold his own. What's the production going to be like? And maybe Yager, he's going to take some time, but McGroarty, given his skill set, I love that power forward game. I love the leadership and the competitive edge that he brings. So you probably could have afforded to give that up with Yager, but now you're weak at the center hole. You got a competitive winger, but now you got to address that back in the next draft. And now it's kind of like, what are you doing kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's a good move on paper, good move for the short term, but long term, I question it because of the prospect that they gave up because of what could happen up the middle.
That's a good point. I mean, McGroarty could be a guy that'll help them now. I mean, you don't even know. I mean, he hasn't played in the NHL yet. Everyone's kind of hoping that he's going to just hit right away, and he's going to be given every chance. Apparently, every chance on the first line with Crosby or in the top six, and that's we'll see. We'll see how McGroarty does. I think he's definitely ready for the NHL. It's just how well will he acclimate right away? And Yager going back to the Jets, who now obviously he's one of their top prospects, just like McGroarty was. So, Dayton, what are your thoughts on that trade? And then we'll move into the next one, which is pretty. I mean, this will be a quick one too, but you can kind of move into that. Cody Glass going to the Penguins from the Nashville Predators. Glass has kind of been moved around a bit since he was drafted. What do you think about those two trades here?
Yeah, I mean, with McGroarty, I believe the Jets did as good as they could. Braden Yager is a great young prospect. I think he's got a great future ahead of him. And when a player says that they don't want to sign with you long term, you kind of have lost all of your bargaining power. So to get somebody like that for McGroarty, I think is a big win. Because they do have a great prospect in Yager. Cody Glass is such a sad story.
Yeah.
And not for anything like behind the scenes or anything. It's just he was 6th overall in 2017. Excuse me. Was a great star in the WHL and just hasn't put it together in the NHL. Couldn't do it with the Vegas Golden Knights because, well, they don't seem to like young players.
You're gone.
Yeah, they don't keep anybody who's like under 25.
Right.
And so they sent him to Nashville, and Nashville had a pretty decent season in 22-23. 14 goals, 35 points, 72 games, was even on the world champion. World
Hockey Championship.
World Championship. Yeah. It was a long day. He did okay there, though. World Championship for Canada, 4 assists in 10 games. Last season with the Predators, I believe he had some injury issues. Couldn't put together another season. That was solid. And he gets moved for, and with no offense intended, a guy. Jordan Frasca might play NHL games. Right now, he looks like he's a minor leaguer.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge win for Pittsburgh. They have a guy who could be a top line or a top 6 guy. I think top line is probably past at this point, but you never know. I think his breakout is kind of on the precipice. He just needs that opportunity to play the game that he used to play. And so far he hasn't been able to be in a system that has allowed that. So I think Pittsburgh is probably a great fit for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he put up career numbers this season. Because I think he's kind of running out of time, sadly. It's I don't know how many more chances he gets.
That's the thing, and that's I mean, in Pittsburgh, he's going to get again chances with some really good players. He could potentially play in the top 6. And the thing is I still go back to that. Apparently, Jim Benning wanted to pick Cody Glass over Elias Pettersson. I'm so happy he did not do that.
No kidding.
I think Pettersson's a little better. No, a lot better. He is an elite centerman in the NHL, and then you're looking at Cody Glass, who's still trying to figure it out. So, yeah. All right. Now we'll do some quick ones. I mean, this one I just wanted your thoughts on, because Patrick Laine, obviously way past being a prospect, but Jordan Harris is a bit of a prospect still. Peter, what do you think about Laine going to Montreal? I mean, the Columbus Blue Jackets obviously had to move Laine, and getting Jordan Harris, who's kind of established himself as being a pretty good NHL player at his young age. But what do you think about that one?
Yeah. Obviously getting Patrick Laine is huge. You got another sniper in your system along with Cole Caulfield, which is a big win. You get a little bit more competitive, which is what the Canadiens want to do right now. They want to take that next step. They want to be, a little bit more competitive. They want to try and make that push. I don't know if it's going to make a difference because, given the ups and downs that Laine has had throughout his career, coming out of the player assistance program, I'm glad he got the help that he needed, and hopefully he get his career back on track, because he was just like Austin Matthews at that time. They were competing for who's the best, sharpshooter, and it was kind of neck and neck at that point until Matthews broke away. Laine declined. So I hope Laine has, good bounce back with Montreal. Definitely they see a fit for him, which is great. In giving up Jordan Harris, yeah, I really come around to like him as a defender. He's very smooth, very steady, has a calming presence on the back end, and I think you need a little bit more of that in Columbus. Obviously, for the next few seasons, it's still going to be rough. It's going to be rough for quite some time until everyone starts to make the jump, but I think he's a good fit for right now, and he could be a very strong veteran. I mean, he still may be a little bit young, but he could be a good veteran at that point when everyone starts to make the jump. So yeah, I thought it was a good ad for Columbus and Harris, because I really liked his play. So in what he's done with the Montreal Canadiens so far, can't wait to see what he does with the Blue Jackets, because the last 2 seasons he's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think for what Laine, I mean, obviously wanted to get moved. So for Columbus to get Harris, who's a legitimate, he's an NHL defender. It seems like he's shown that now. And he has some upside to him too. So I think they got a pretty good asset for Laine, and hopefully, like you said, he can do something in Montreal and maybe get comfortable again, like he seemed to be in Winnipeg for a little bit there. So we'll see how it goes there. All right, to finish off this, before we move to some WHL, big WHL trade. Dayton, I know you talked about it on Senators Roundtable, these trades, but just for people that watch Prospect Corner, the Senators made a couple trades, getting Xavier Bourgault from the Oilers. Oilers are a very big theme this offseason. They made a lot of moves. And then Jake Chason for Roby Jarventi, and then Jenik for Igor Sokolov. Those trades are any going to be needle movers for the Senators? And obviously Jarventi was one of their top prospects too.
Yeah, I think Jacob Billington, who hosts the Senators Roundtable, put it really well in that Jarventi is the better prospect now, but Bourgault should be the better prospect later. So it's kind of a, where are you in your team development right now? And Jarventi was struggling with some injuries. He was struggling with a little bit of consistency. And he, was kind of losing a little bit of a spot, I think, at least kind of from what I saw in his place in Belleville. And so the Senators moved him for a guy who had completely lost his spot in Edmonton, Xavier Bourgault, a former first-round pick, will always be tied to not taking Askarov, or no, Wallstead, the other goalie.
Yeah.
The Oilers could have had him, didn't take him, and I think that kind of weighed on everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a fresh start in Ottawa. I think that's a great move for him. I think it could pay off very well. I think the Senators could get a middle six forward who, is a little bit more well-rounded than Jarventi, who is great speed and great offense. There's defensive concerns so far anyways, but he's young, right? You never know how it's going to work out. And he has a great opportunity to potentially make an impact in Edmonton. I don't think they have I don't think they have a solidified bottom six. And so Jarventi could sneak in there. But now he's probably going to be competing with somebody like Podkolzin.
Yeah.
Which he will, unfortunately, probably lose. As for Sokolov and Jenik, that's just flipping guys who needed they needed changes of scenery, right? Sokolov just wasn't going to have a future with the Oilers, with Ottawa, with the Senators. And Jenik had kind of lost a little bit of his footing in Arizona or Utah, however you want to phrase that. So giving him a new chance. If neither work out, it's kind of like it's a nothing deal. It's I think both could be very good minor leaguers with the chance to play NHL games and could be decent NHLers, but it's a lot of we'll see. So yeah, it's They're very much will see trades that don't
Mhm.
really change the needle, but very much could if everything hits right.
Yeah, I think changes of scenery. Who knows what could happen where they hit some chemistry and Yard Venti could have a better chance of doing something in Edmonton. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's say what we'll see. What if we'll see. All right, moving away from the NHL and to the WHL, who they've had some trades too, but the biggest one is Ryder Ritchie going to the Medicine Hat Tigers and bolstering their lineup quite a bit, especially with their prospects they've got coming up. So, Dayton, I'll start with you. What do you think about this one? I mean, Ryder Ritchie, top prospect, obviously from this past draft, getting it's Minnesota Wild prospect. Second round pick, 45th overall, and moving to the Tigers. What do you think about this one?
I think this is a huge win for the Tigers, and I think it really signifies their intention for 24-25. They're not rebuilding anymore, right? They had a lot of really, really good young guys headlined by Gavin McKenna, but they've also got a couple of other really strong ones. I'm Andrew Bash is now a veteran. Caden Lindstrom, he's going to be playing a major role this season. Hopefully, stays healthy. They've got two young guys, Marcus and Liam Ruck, who are almost like Sedin twins for the Tigers. It's fantastic. Really, really good young team, and they're not comfortable in just waiting for the the playoffs to kind of come to them. They are taking charge, and getting Ritchie is somebody who will make them a better playoff team. They he didn't get off to a great start, Ritchie, with the Prince Albert Raiders. He had a rookie year where he, I believe, won Rookie of the Year for the WHL. 55 points, 61 games, looked like he was going to break out. Injuries, inconsistency, limited him to just 47 games and only 44 points. But by the end of the season, he was finally finding his rhythm again. 7 points in 5 playoff games against the powerhouse Saskatoon Blades, who were first in the WHL. I'm not just saying they're a powerhouse because their jersey's hanging in my office here.
Facts are facts.
Facts are facts, right? He had a very, very good season to end. He is a great player. He's a workhorse. He has good speed. He has pretty solid offensive abilities, and he just outworks you a lot of the night. He's a really fun player to watch. Made watching the Raiders a little bit more enjoyable because they didn't have a lot of really top end guys. They were a grindy team, and then you got Ritchie there who was commanding everything, and he's going to now be on a lineup that will work with a lot of his other skills too. I think, yeah, the Tigers have made a massive acquisition here. It did cost them a guy in Thomas Mercic, who is a good young player. He was a St. Louis pick, 4th round. He had 62 points in 63 games, one of their, up and comers. I believe he was mainly playing on the second line, maybe third line, depending on who was injured or not. So he does give the Raiders a good offensive punch, but you got to pay talent to get talent, and Ritchie was definitely worth parting with Mercic for.
100%. I mean, he had a great world under 18s too. 4 goals, 8 points in the 7 games. And obviously went in the second round. I mean, we were, I believe, talking about him maybe sneaking into the first round, but then you got the Wild. The Wild just keep building their prospect pool, and getting Ritchie was a huge deal. Getting him there. Peter, what do you think about this trade? Probably the biggest in the WHL so far here.
Yeah, I mean, like Dayton said, it makes him much deeper, makes him more competitive, and makes him, a top contender to push for a championship and make that deep run. And also when you have the likes of, I mean, he just listed off the names, Basha, Lindstrom, Gavin McKenna. Now you throw Ryder Ritchie into the mix. That's a pretty damn good top 4, if you ask me. I mean, especially if, as Dayton mentioned, if Caden Lindstrom can stay healthy, which I think he may, or it looks like it's going to be a possibility that he is going to start off the season healthy. Look out, because Basha is a workhorse. Lindstrom is a power forward. Like, he just bullies his way through to the middle of the ice. We know how great Gavin McKenna is, and rounding out that kind of balance of the offensive talent with the pace of play, the speed, and the hands that Ryder Ritchie has, it'll complement all four of them. I think it'll be a very great group up front. And we didn't even mention the fact that, I know we're talking about Ryder Ritchie, but they added Niilo-Pekka Muhonen and Vidi Väisänen as well, which is great for the back end. I'm kind of digressing there. I know we're talking about Ritchie, but like, you add those type of names to your back end, you're going to be very competitive. You're going to make a deep run. And again, I kind of had Ryder Ritchie as a late first throughout most of last season. I know he kind of fell into that second round because of the inconsistency, the injury, but the fact that he picked it up afterwards, that's the Ryder Ritchie that we know. That's the Ryder Ritchie that we've seen the previous season at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup as well, during that tournament where he stood out. Just a bad draft year, but the upside and skill is there for him to be, very effective. And I can't wait to see what he does this season, kind of like Lindstrom, when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they can stay healthy, they're the Medicine Hat Tigers going to be a fun team to watch this season. So we'll keep an eye on them. All right, let's talk about some rookies, and just quickly, I mean, there's a lot that we can talk about going into this season. Matvei Michkov is being added to this conversation now because he's now a Philadelphia Flyer over in North America, so he's a big part of this. You got Logan Stankoven, another guy that's going to have a full season in the NHL right from the start. Had a great playoffs. You got Macklin Celebrini. I mean, there's a lot of big names, and then some other guys too. So, Peter, I'll start with you. Who's your top three right now for Calder Trophy candidates? I mean, way too early, but who is in it for you right now?
That is tough. For all the concerns that are with the San Jose Sharks roster, I think Macklin Celebrini is going to at least put up 50 points. He's that good. And I get you don't want to rush prospects and going into that kind of environment, but look what Connor Bedard did this season. Connor Bedard is on another level, but I think Macklin Celebrini is still going to be just as productive on a bad Sharks team. Maybe not as to the 61 point that Bedard had. Then again, Bedard was injured, so he probably could have had a lot more. But I think Celebrini's definitely got to be up there. Lane Hutson, I think, is going to be one of those players, as well as Cutter Gauthier. I think those are going to be my top three, or my early top three heading into the season. But again, don't count out Logan Stankoven. Don't count out Matvei Michkov. This is going to be a very exciting class because of the talent available. And I wish I could have picked top five because I wanted to add those two in. But it wouldn't surprise me if they make it much more competitive and it's going to be a tight race towards the end.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Calder Trophy candidates, I think, throughout this season on Prospect Corner, which is going to be fun. We'll keep tracking. Probably they'll show up in our Prospect of the Week, probably quite a bit too. All right, Dayton, who's your top three?
Yeah, I think Peter kind of nailed it by saying it's going to be a tight race. I don't think there's a clear cut, runaway winner like we all expected Bedard to do. And he wasn't a runaway winner, but he won, right? Yeah. So he proved a lot of people right. He had a great rookie season. I don't know if the combo of Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini is going to push the Sharks a lot. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be better. I don't it's a young roster with not a lot of talent elsewise, right? They're really rebuilding. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be very tough for those guys to put up Bedard-like points. So I would think that Logan Hutson is probably my top guy. No, Cole Hutson.
Lane
Hutson. Oh my goodness. Which Hutson?
Too many Hudsons. I wish there were three like the Hughes brothers.
Right? That'd be great. The Hudson that's going to be with the Canadiens. Whatever. That one. Everyone knows. I think he could be that 50-point defenseman that wins a Calder, because as we've talked in the past, you need 50 points as a defenseman to win the Calder Trophy. If you get 49, you're not winning.
That's the mark. Yep.
Yeah. How many did Brock Faber get last year? I believe it was 47, right?
Just fell short.
Yeah.
Just fell short. Not going to win the Calder. So I think he wins it. But I think Matvei Michkov and Logan Stankoven are probably going to be the two guys pushing him most for it. Stankoven's unreal. I've really enjoyed watching him and still succeeding, even being a little guy. He just knows how to succeed and thrive in hockey. And then Michkov is a talent that was comparable to Bedard. I think that Russian factor is probably going to work well with the Flyers. I think I could see that working well with his style. But yeah, lots of really good guys, Cutter Gauthier, Dustin Wolf even could show up. Rutger McGroarty, we talked about, he could have a really good season with the Penguins. Yeah, lots of really good rookies to watch this season.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I want to say it's Logan Stankoven. It's gonna win it because I love him. Everyone knows. And I think Michkov is gonna have a big chance. I think the big question mark with him is how well will he mesh with John Tortorella? Because if he doesn't, he will not play. He will get scratched. He won't. It's unfortunate how Tortorella kind of works with some of these guys, but if he does fit and he can go with them, I think he has a big chance of winning it. I do agree with the Celebrini thing. I mean, Bedard had a lot of talent around him in Chicago, even though Chicago didn't. He's had some guys that he could play with, and I think Celebrini is going to have a tough time. I mean, who is he going to get? I mean, guys have got to score off his passes too. He can't be. He's not going to be the one scoring all the goals. He needs to get some assists too. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think Stankoven is my top three. I'm going to say Stankoven is my leading one right now. I think Celebrini is going to be in that top three, but he won't win it. And then Lane Hutson is going to be my other guy. But yeah, there's just so many guys that you could talk about. On that note, I mean, you mentioned a few of them, Dayton, but who are some other rookies to watch? You don't necessarily have to be in any conversation for the Calder because there are a lot of other rookies. Who should everyone be watching that may not get the Calder or a conversation up for it?
Yeah, I kind of really briefly touched on him, but Dustin Wolf is one of those guys who just wins. He was a fantastic WHL goalie. He was a fantastic AHL goalie. And normally, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, probably a duck. I think he is, going to be given the starting role in Calgary. If not immediately, then very soon afterwards. People will criticize his size, but I think that, it's overlooked if you're a very successful athletic goalie, and Dustin Wolf is. I don't think he will win the Calder, but I think he could have a fantastic season with Calgary. It's just the Calgary is kind of in this transition of trying to figure out what they want to be. Are they going to try to compete still? Are they going to try to tear it down? They've done moves for both. So, yeah, I think Hudson is probably my guy to watch. That won't win the Calder, but will have a very interesting season.
For sure. Peter, who do you got? Everyone should be watching apart from Calder Trophy candidates there.
Well, Dayton mentioned one goalie I was going to talk about, but it's fine because there is another, and I'm going to say Jesper Wallstedt. Again, kind of the same situation that Wolf is in with Calgary, but the Wild has a plethora of goaltenders already right now. Believe that Philip Gustafsson and Marc-Andre Fleury are still ahead of him right now, but given Gustafsson's performance last season and Fleury declining and on the verge of retirement, it definitely opens things up a little bit more for Jesper Wallstedt. You look at Gustafsson's numbers, 19, 18, and 4 last season, 899 save percentage, 306 goals against average. Wallstedt really didn't fare that well in 3 games. 2-1 winning record, 897, 301. But he's getting his feet wet. He's just getting some pro experience. And I think those 3 games will be key for him trying to take that next step forward and, trying to learn from a great like Marc-Andre Fleury. I think there isn't a better goaltender to learn from than him with the pedigree, the career that he's had, the championships and everything like that. I think that Wallstedt is definitely going to assume the starter role at some point. I think Gustafsson may not be able to, provide the consistency. And if the Wild want to be consistent and a little bit more competitive, you drafted Wallstedt for a reason.
Mhm.
It's going to be his time to assume the starter role very soon. He's looked very good in the AHL. Now it looks like he's ready for the NHL. Again, you're probably going to have to bypass Fleury and Gustafsson, but I think he's able to manage that and can do it. So, I think Wallstedt is definitely one of those names to watch in goal. And again, we talk about the players outside of the crease. Wolf and Wallstedt is going to be battling it out for the top goaltender for this class as well, which is going to be pretty exciting to see.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I mean, who knows? Askarov could do something in San Jose. I don't know. It just depends on if he can go ahead of the veterans that they already got. And that could be a possibility. Who knows? I kind of hoping he doesn't, because I think he's going to get shelled. I mean, obviously the Sharks have maybe a bit better defense coming with Wallman and CC coming in, but they're not upper echelon defenders. I mean, they're good, but they're going to make them better. I'm not sure how much though. But yeah, I think Askarov is another guy to watch this season. You've got just a lot of guys that we've mentioned that should be an interesting rookie class this season. All right, before we close, I'm bringing back the question of the week for this week. With the offer sheets, I don't know if there's going to be any more. I mean, there's a lot of major RFAs still not signed. 2 guys in Detroit in particular. I don't know if but this is why I'm asking this question. Dayton, which major unsigned RFA is at most risk of an offer sheet now? I mean, obviously the big ones they're going to have to be pretty big offer sheets for the team not to match, but is there a possibility for any of these guys?
Well, I think when you think of the big ones, I don't see them getting an offer sheet. They're just too expensive, right? You're paying multiple first picks for signing guys like that, because they're going to be commanding like millions and millions of dollars. I just saw an article today that Jeremy Swayman's looking around $10 million per season, which is not going to happen. No. Like, good luck and good for you for shooting high, but it's not happening. Still trying to sign him to something like that's costing you all of your picks for the next 3 years. So I was trying to think of a guy who is still relatively cheap, but has, first round pedigree, I guess, kind of like Broberg, kind of like Holloway, maybe kind of like Peyton Krebs. Still not signed by the Sabres, was picked in the first round, has that ability to break out, would only cost you a couple $1 million. I could see somebody coming in and trying to offer sheet him. Definitely not the biggest name, but for some team that can afford maybe overpaying the kid a little bit, that would put the Sabres, I think, in a really tough situation that they might not match it. I'm not, off the top of my head, I don't know what their cap situation is like, but they have a lot of young guys that they kind of need to pay attention to, who are coming up relatively soon, guys like Dylan Cousins, and, Owen Power, and I think Rasmus Dahlin is signed fairly long-term, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, he'll probably be needing an extension pretty soon. I just don't have those numbers in front of me right now. So I think the Sabres could be a target. I think Krebs could be offer sheeted, and someone could win with them.
Another guy coming from the Golden Knights.
Because they don't keep their young guys under 25.
Yeah.
I think.
They trade a lot of guys. They just do. I think the only guy that's left now that they seem to want to hold on to, oh my gosh, I had him in my head and now I lost him. Starts with a B. He's still in their system.
Brandon Brisson.
Yeah. He's still in their system. He's probably the longest in the system that I was like, he's not traded yet. I guess they like him. And then probably trade him tomorrow. Peter, what about you? Who do you got as the RFA that could be signed? RFA sheet.
Yeah, I think you got to look at someone like Cole Perfetti as well. I mean, there's still no contract or no budge or movement there in terms of how to approach a contract for him. Is it going to be a bridge deal? Is it going to be a long term? Who knows? But, if you try to give him the money that Broberg's asking, around $4 million, maybe 2-3 years, why not take that opportunity? You know, this is a player that's trying to move up. He's not getting those opportunities still in the Jets system. If you know it's going to handcuff the Jets, why not force their hand, see if they do match it, and then Perfetti can stay, and then if not, then you get the picks for it. The other one I'm going to keep an eye on too, and you know, you guys have probably read about this too, is Nick Robertson with the Maple Leafs. You know, he wants to change of scenery, similar to that of Broberg, and it's either, you know, I want to trade or don't bother signing me at all. So if you're a team right there and you're going to probably give up, you know, mid-round picks, maybe second or third for Robertson, why not give him a little bit more, give him that kind of deal where it's maybe around 2-3 million, so you could probably get those mid-round picks, something that the Maple Leafs could use later on. Again, Perfetti is the big name to watch for me, but you know, as a depth name or a name that could probably, you know, thrive elsewhere is Nick Robertson. But it's a dicey situation because of the Maple Leafs have a need for him. Just because of the past, he wants a better opportunity, and it's a bit of a dicey situation.
Yeah, all good names. I think Perfetti could potentially get something if they don't sign him quickly here. I mean, obviously, it depends on if the other GMs are going to be as bold as the Blues. But yeah, it just seems like offer sheets maybe a little more of a chance of happening now. I think it's a legitimate way of getting players. I mean, why not?
It's fun. It creates that controversy.
Yeah.
And Peter, you were saying like $6 million for Perfetti, right?
Around there or something like that. That's what I've read at certain points.
So
if it's
that
a
would cost you
deal, if it's a long-term
round
deal
and a third round choice.
Yeah.
That's it. Would you pay that for Perfetti?
Oh, probably not. But
without a question.
If you are going for like a long-term deal is what I'm saying. Like if you are going like maybe, you know, 6-7 years, but if you are going like that 2-3 year, maybe a little bit cheaper and the cap hit will be brought down.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to watch for the next. I don't think any of the big names, like you said, are going to go because it just costs too many picks, and you got to have all those picks to be able to do it too. So it is going to be tough for a lot of these big names, and I don't think they happen very often. Seider and Raymond are, I mean, they're going to be signed by Detroit at some point here. I don't think they're worried about offer sheets. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch for sure. All right. Well, there's an episode. Peter, Dayton, thanks for coming on and talking prospect trades. There were, like I say, a ton of them. So we took a break from our deep dives to talk about this. Our next team up is the Ottawa Senators, but I think we may skip over it because Dayton, you guys did a prospect pyramid on the Senators. So we might hold off on doing the Senators because
fine. We won't talk more about the Sens.
unless everyone wants us to do it. So
you got to get in the comments, right?
In the comments, we want the Senators up next. We'll do them next. They are up next on our on our draft board here as we're going down. We also got the top 100 prospects getting updated by Logan. So that's going to be an episode coming up. So make sure you're checking out everything at thehockeywriters.com as the offseason continues here and as we get into next season. And but until next time, we'll see you on another episode of Prospect Corner.